Today's title is on orgasm inequality. Women report getting 1 orgasm for every 3 orgasms that a man has. Women report reaching orgasm through vaginal intercourse only 25% of the time. How do we remedy this orgasm inequality? Today I'll discuss the subject of love and sex and teach men a technique they can use on their female partners. But first, a story. A married guy goes into a therapist and says he's miserable. And he says, "Doctor, you gotta help me. My wife, I don't know what to do. She's inconsolable, satisfied. I think she's having menopause and hot flashes." And the answer from the psychologist comes back, "Love her." And the man replies, "But you don't understand. Her sister is now in her life, and this has changed up the dynamic in the house." The response from the psychologist once again says, "Love her." "Oh," but the man starts saying, "I don't see how. We've changed so much," says the psychologist. Love is an act. Love is something you do every day. Love is a million little things. Love is getting roses for your woman because you can't stand to have another day go by that she isn't exposed to beauty. Love is about filling her cup and then watching yours overflow. So that's the end of the story. My question to the audience now is, do you love her as much as you did when you first met her? You can right now. My talk would not be possible today without the research and TED Talks of Nicole Daedone, Nicole Emma, Pamela Joy, and Mike Anderson. I encourage you to Google these names and to listen to them. So how all this got started and why I'm sharing this message today is I was having intimacy issues with my fiance. She felt that I was getting my orgasm off. I was achieving orgasm while she was not. I learned patience, I learned compassion, I learned mutual touch, I learned all about me, and I learned that I'm still not done yet. So Nicole Daedone wrote Slow Sex, the Art and Craft of the Female Orgasm. So here's kind of the space that I want to set today. Here's the energetic room that I want to create for you today. My approach will be, I didn't do anything wrong, but there must have been something I could have done better. So I'm talking to men now. I didn't do anything wrong, but there must have been something I could have done better. I invite you to use this line. And why do I say that? And why do I set that as the atmosphere for what we're trying to create today? In order that we don't judge ourselves, sex can be a topic that is filled with taboos, that is filled with uncertainty. Some cultures avoid it. Some cultures brush it under the rug. And I can probably guess that a lot of people in their past, a lot of women as well, have had traumatic sexual experiences, and the men in the room as well. So really not trying to prescribe here today anything or give advice. I want to share my own experience and what I've come to learn. So let's go ahead and start. Your woman needs to feel like she can tell you the brutally honest truth and that you don't make her wrong for saying that. Your woman needs to feel like she can tell you the brutally honest truth and that you don't look afterwards at her with contempt. The male ego is so fragile around sex. Men get so much of their mojo by how they think they perform. So it's natural to get defensive. And again, I'm not here to accuse anybody. We're all doing our best. So I'm here to be tough on the problem and soft on the person. So before I teach you the technique, let's redefine what sex means, because it's very important. Our lexicon, our language of how we think and talk about sex really is where we're creating a lot of our problems. Because sex for a lot of people is this fleeting moment of climax that feels so good that seems to take the rest of the act hostage. We have between us as couples put way too much emphasis on the climax, on the peak experience, and the rest of the act is foreplay. The rest of the act is cleanup. Sex should not be this fleeting moment of climax that seems to take the rest of the act hostage. You can have sex even when you're not having sex. You exchange sexual energy when the bartender makes you a drink. You exchange sexual energy when you see another jogger's silhouette coming up over the bridge, and you sigh and you drink in that moment. So it's not about being scared of the energy. It's about harnessing the horse in service of the rider. I told my friend recently that I was writing a book about men and women, and she says, men and women. Well, women trade their sex for the man's security. That's what she told me. And so my question now is, well, what happens when women are making half the money? What happens in relationships when that power dynamic, that money dynamic is influenced and she's making more than the man? You know, does she finally get a chance for sex to be about her? So we don't need to repeat the history books. We can create a new earth today. Sex is not about procreation. It's predominantly about pleasure. The current definition of sex that I find to be incomplete is sex is vagina plus penis to create a baby. Sex is vagina plus penis to create a baby. First off, most people are not having sex in order to procreate. And the problem with penetration is that only about 25% of women actually reach orgasm through the vaginal orgasm. When she can't reach her clitoris, when she isn't stimulating that part of her body, the woman has to rely on the thrusting of the man to hit the vagina opening just right, which usually he doesn't. So the clitoris and the inner labia is where the woman's orgasm gets built. So here's the technique. And this comes 100% from Nicole Daedone. She wrote the book called Slow Sex, Art and Craft of the Female Orgasm. She did a talk in TEDx San Francisco, and her talk is called Orgasm, the Cure for Hunger in the Western Woman. So if you don't understand it from the way I'm explaining it, perhaps you can go to this video and get it straight from the source. So this is the technique that I did with my fiance, and it brought her and it brought me to such a level of intimacy. It expanded this conversation. It made me get out there and, you know, make a video about this and put my own story out there. But tears would not stop cascading from her eyes after we practiced this. So without further ado, here's the technique. You need 15 minutes. You need a human male who is the giver. You need a human female who is the receiver. Ideally, you have a bed. You also need lubrication for the lady, and you need to set an ambiance. You need to have candles and aroma. So 15 minutes to respect the man's time, and the man is wearing all of his clothes while this is happening. He sits crisscross on the bed, his back straight, and he holds this mountain energy. He breathes deep. Picture like a monk in an orange robe just sitting crisscross applesauce. That's what he's doing. He's sitting crisscross applesauce on the bed. And then she's laying down on her back. She's having comfortable pillows against her neck, and she opens up her legs. So with his pointer finger, the man strokes her inner labia. You touch the inner labia, the outer labia, and clitoris as softly as you would touch an eyebrow. Back and forth for 15 minutes. Remember to slow your speed. Listen to your partner. Feel what she feels. Listen to her breathing. Listen to her moaning. Lean into that. If the top of her clitoris is 12 o'clock on a clock, if the top of her clitoris is 12 o'clock, then you want to be touching around the 1 o'clock area. That's the most sensitive side. And you're exposing her rose with this light and this gentle touch the same way that you would brush an eyebrow. And here's how you're going to tell her that you're going to do this. You say, B, I want to work on you for 15 minutes. This is a practice for you to receive. I want you to relax and receive. After the 15 minutes are done, you're free to go. Mind blown. I'm going to repeat that last part. After 15 minutes are done, you're free to go. I think so many women are, when they get themselves in heat or they begin to have sex, so much of culture is just, it's making it all about the man and the man's orgasm and the man's pleasure and what's going to happen with him. And the woman's exposing herself. She's putting herself in such a vulnerable state. So that's why these 15 minutes are just 15 minutes. When the alarm goes off, there is no expectation of sex from her afterwards. And this is the whole technique, I think, is we're making these 15 minutes about her. And you're going to see how she's going to open up. And I hope it really works for you. But I do want to linger here just for a second, and I'm going off script. Johanna told me, look, I don't want to put myself in that position if I know I'm not going to achieve orgasm. If you're going to get your rocks off and then I'm left feeling dissatisfied at this peak and I can't finish, I don't feel like I want to finish. I feel too many women really feel that way and take sex as this really just uncomfortable space. It gets avoided, too many women fake their orgasm. And really what I'm just trying to do is illuminate how in the dark us men have been. And how much these women are finally getting their voice heard. And it's not about feminism. It really isn't. It's not about starting a gender war. And it's not making men feel bad. It's about coming to the space with an open heart. And I really feel like this technique is something that I have now in my tool belt that I can use. So I hope this works for you and your partner. I hope that you continue to give her light and treat each other well. Thank you for your time.